call the roll, I need you to say present and that you are located in the city of Kalamazoo. All right.
Or wherever you're located.
Wherever, thank you. Wherever you're located, thank you. Jacob Beach,
Present, Kalamazoo.
Janine Brown,
Present, Kalamazoo.
Gabriela Dela Cruz,
Present in Kalamazoo.
Jessica Glenn,
Present in Kalamazoo.
Angela Graham Williams,
Present in Kalamazoo County.
Marissa Harrington,
Present in Kalamazoo.
Deshaun Houston. He's present and we see him kind of Kalamazoo. All right. I have a little standard message I have to read. I want to welcome you to the December 23rd Civil Rights Board meeting. Just a reminder that for a public comment, please call 269-226-6573. That's 269-226-6573 and leave a voice mail message limited to 3 minutes. During citizens' comments, your voicemail message will be played back for the good of the order. Thank you. Notice of closed caption. The City of Kalamazoo's live streaming platforms, Facebook and YouTube, do not currently offer live closed caption. However, please note that public meetings are recorded and upon conclusion are made available with closed caption for hearing impaired. Thank you. Back, Mr.
I want to say Deshaun Houston is present in Kalamazoo. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Do you want to take over, Deshaun?
Are we done with roll call?
Yes.
Quick. Okay. Mr. Robinson, I'm going to ask you to help me with the Roberts Rules of Order, just to make sure I'm online. Is that okay with you?
No problem.
All right. So we'll move right along to the adoption of agenda. And Mr. Robinson, what are the actual formal words?
You just asked for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I want to move to a motion to adopt the agenda.
No, you asked for somebody else to make the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
All right, motion by Chairman Jacob Beach. And I didn't get the second person. Motion by
Marissa Harrington.
Marissa Harrington. Just keep chucking along.
And well, then ask if for a vote on it. And you can just ask for a voice vote.
I'd like to ask for a voice vote, please, to
So
adopt.
all in favor say yes.
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And any opposed say no.
Any opposed say no.
It's the agenda is adopted.
Agenda is adopted. All right, we're going to move to action item 4, approval of the minutes.
Again, ask for a motion for approval of the minutes.
So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve minutes.
So I move that we approve the minutes.
Motion by Chairman Janine Brown.
Second it.
All right. Motion by Dr. Angela Graham Williams. We'll adopt the.
Is there any corrections or additions to the minutes?
Any corrections or additions to the minutes?
All right, then you may ask for a voice vote.
I'm going to ask for a voice vote. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, on a voice vote, yes.
A voice, excuse me.
That's okay.
I'll get it right probably by the 10th meeting.
You're doing just fine.
Thank you. Everyone say yes, sorry.
And then ask if there's any no's.
Any no's?
Minutes are approved.
Minutes are approved. All right, we're going to move on to action item 5, public announcements and communication.
So I do have one announcement, Chairman Houston, is We do have dates scheduled for training, for fair housing training for landlords and residents, and I will send those out to you so you could share those. But we do have training scheduled to start in January. And there are about 2,000 landlords on our list. Yes, we have a lot of landlords in Kalamazoo. And so we will be training them 200 at a time um, in a Zoom platform by the Michigan Department of Civil Rights and the Fair Housing Center and our local staff. So just wanted to keep you up to date on that. Thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Dorla, can I ask a question about that?
You can.
Is that the schedule that's on the City of Kalamazoo's LinkedIn page and the website? Is that just an open enrollment, first come, first serve?
Yes.
Okay, is there any verification? I've had some people reach out to me about it. Is there any, I just want to be able to, pass on the right information. Is there any verification or any requirements or anything that would preclude someone from registering for that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's
Any other public announcements or communications? Any other staff? Anything formal needs to be said, Mr. Robinson?
No, you can move on to the next item of business.
All right, next item of business is the old business public comments on old business first.
So
No
you ask,
public.
is there any public comments? You have to ask our IT folks, are there any public comments?
IT, is there any public comments?
Nope, there are no public comments at this time.
Okay. All right. Section 6A, nothing formal, right, Mr. Robinson?
Well, at this point, if you want a quick presentation and then so as to give you some guidance as to what the changes are, I think everybody's seen them. They should have been highlighted. And they are, I tried to reflect the discussion and the concerns that were raised at the last meeting in making those changes. I can go through them real quick if anybody would like me to do so.
I think for the record, it would be a good idea.
Okay. The changes are as follows. There is new section 3.6 addressing removal. I attempted to capture again the essence of the discussion that occurred at the last meeting. And this means that an individual will have an opportunity to be heard if they are asked to leave the board. That recommendation would come from this board to the city commission, and there would be a hearing on the matter. And basically, it's if the individual was engaged in past or present discriminatory conduct or did not disclose a conflict of interest. And so then that you would bring that due process requires that you give that an opportunity for that board member to be heard on the charges that they violated the bylaws. And then after you hear what the charges against them and their rebuttal or their response, then you can act on that. It may be that you choose that there should be no discipline or no removal. That's within your purview, but you could also recommend to the city commission that the individual be removed due to the findings based on the record that was presented to you. So that's the removal portion. The other is, and this goes to, and is on page 4, section 5.7. They work kind of hand in glove. This is the disclosure of conflicts. We say, and again, this is picking up on the comments that occurred at the last meeting. There is an affirmative statement that parties who have a matter before the board are entitled to a fair and impartial hearing. Again, that is consistent with due process law. And then we talk about whether there's a conflict, if a board member either has a personal or professional interest in the matter that interferes with his or her ability to exercise objectivity in hearing the matter. So that's the standard. Those, I think, are the two amendments that were made. Again, that's section 5.7 that tries to define conflict of interest, and then section 3.6 that describes the process to recommend the removal of a member from the board.
Any questions or concerns?
I just wanted to make note of a typo under Article 5. It should be 5.3 for special meetings as opposed to 2.3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But the additions, I have no questions or concerns about the additions. Thank you for them.
Anyone else? I think I'd like to call motion to see if we would like to vote to send this to the commission. Right, Mr.
Yeah,
Robbins?
the motion is to approve,
accept the bylaw.
to accept the bylaws or approve the bylaws. And then once you take that action, they would go to the city commission for approval. You're correct.
Attorney
All right.
Robinson, I apologize, President Houston, mind if I ask another question?
Absolutely.
It is, my recollection is that this document, forgive me, will be a fluid one, especially as we are a new inaugural board. And anything that we decide today, there's always opportunity later to augment or supplement or even change if necessary. Is that a fair statement?
That is fair. The last article in the document talks about amendments, and you have the ability to amend.
Okay, thank you. Because I just don't want there to be any trepidation on my behalf as well, that if we vote on something today, that it's just in stone and we have to make this monumental decision. I just want to reaffirm that we will be able to, as we work the process and getting to the adjudication, that as needed, we'll be able to make changes.
I have a question for you, Attorney Robinson. The bylaws also has a section about meetings, and our next conversation is about the meeting schedule, the time and dates. If we wanted to change that, would we have to vote again for the bylaws, since that is part of the bylaws? Should we do that first and then accept the bylaws? Is that?
I suppose that's one way to do it. Yes. I mean, I did put regular meetings on the Wednesday of the first Wednesday of each month, because I think that's what worked out best. But obviously that can be fluid. I guess you could say that we'll meet 4 times, once each quarter, and at a date and time to be determined. We can make it a little less specific in the bylaws. If that's your desire, we can, that change can be made.
No, I didn't know, if we've been meeting at 6 o'clock, if we decided to meet at 6 o'clock instead of 7, since it's in the bylaws. Is it that
So,
clear?
Attorney Robinson, if there is, I guess my recommendation is, if there is a way that we don't have to alter our bylaws if we have to change our meeting time, I think that would be good of us if we didn't have to change our bylaws just to change our meeting time. So if there was a way for our bylaws to reflect that, I think that would be beneficial.
Less specific.
We can do that, sure.
I guess I do have another question, Attorney Robinson, around the conflict of interest. I'm trying to think of what my question, I guess the personal interest, I guess, thinking about myself professionally, I work with a large number of landlords and clients who might receive assistance from the agency I work with. I don't see that as I have a direct outcome or stake in the outcome of that investigation, but is that classified as a conflict of interest? I just want to ask the question now, so I know when to, because I know Director Glenn also brought this up last, so that we, just in our roles, we do work with a lot of landlords. And I want to kind of make sure I know what that line is.
It depends on the circumstance. Could you phrase that question again? I want to make sure I understand it.
May I?
Yes, please.
So perhaps a hypothetical even, because I think, my position is that simply by virtue of somebody being a client at some point or another of the YWCA doesn't necessarily mean that they were represented directly by me or that they had any interaction with the legal department and staff that I supervise. And because we are the only domestic violence shelter in a county, I would hate that I would be prohibited from being part of this conversation, and also to the idea of the board composition, right? I think we were all asked to participate based on prior professional experience, and specifically in the areas of domestic violence and sexual assault and human trafficking and stalking. I have some insight to offer. And so I would hate for that to be set aside in any conversation about discrimination based on domestic violence. And so I would also ask for just more specificity around conflict. So not necessarily that they had interacted with your employer, but there had been some sort of direct relationship between the parties and any of the commissioners.
Thank you. That is said much better than I was, so I appreciate that.
I'm assuming that we want these added in the bylaws, these more specific scenarios. Is that what I gather?
So my recommendation would be for us to take a look at specifically section 5.7, and I think it's, let's see, where's employer? C. So subsection C simply states the matter involves the employer or employee of the member. And so I would ask for something that specifies that there was a direct relationship with the parties, right? Employer makes sense to me. Like, let's say there's a discrimination action against my employer. Obviously, I would not be able to weigh in, right? But if it is a client of my employer and I didn't have an attorney-client relationship with them or any sort of service provider relationship, then I would argue that a conflict doesn't necessarily exist, and perhaps would be open to further conversation as appropriate, given confidentiality provisions that I would be beholden to as an employee, but certainly don't feel as though I would have a direct conflict because I wouldn't have any information about their specific case.
So I'm going to ask for your advice, Attorney Robinson.
Well, I attempted to deal with that when the conflict of interest, if you have a personal or professional interest that interferes with your ability to be objective. And so to that end, it's much like when you have selecting a jury, when somebody says, well, do you know some of the litigants or the parties that are in court? And you say, oh yeah, I know the defendant. He dated my daughter 20 years ago. Is there anything about that relationship that would cause you not to be able to fairly weigh the evidence in this case? No, they broke up, but it was an amicable thing, and I have not spoken with the defendant in the last 20 years. So you're not going to be able to. That would not bias or kick off that juror. Now, that's said, an attorney who represents one side or the other may ask that jury to be excused, but the judge is not going to say, oh, I'm going to remove you because you can't be objective. So that's kind of the standard I'm looking at in terms of as you are jurors, if you will, weighing the matter before you, is there anything about the individuals that are coming before you that you have that because you know them very closely and personally, or work with them, or you have worked with them, and that would cloud your ability to be impartial and unbiased in examining the facts that are brought before you? So that's the standard that I'm looking at when I drafted this.
Can I ask for clarification, please? Given what you just said, It states in here very specifically that conflict of interest means we're disqualified from voting. It doesn't say anything, or maybe I'm missing it, that we're disqualified from our input.
Yes, you would be disqualified for everything because the fact that you are biased and you're somewhat tainted, then you should not participate because that undermines the impartiality of due process that the people have who are coming before this board.
So I would recommend that we need to be more specific there, because right now it just, sorry, baby. Right now it just speaks to we cannot vote. It does not speak to input and voting or discussion and voting.
And are we allowed to be even at the hearing?
And then there's that. Yeah.
Well, that's a good question that has been discussed, and there's a wide variety of decisions on that. I've heard some attorneys say, well, if you're disqualified, you have to remove yourself from the board, the dais, but you can sit in the room. Others say, no, you have to remove yourself completely out of the room and go into the hallway or another place, and then after the matter's finished, you can come back in. I've always taken the position that is the individual, as long as they sit there and don't participate, they can stay on the panel. Now, like I said, not every attorney agrees with that, and I leave it up to probably the board member how they feel. Obviously, if we're engaged in a virtual meeting like we are tonight, I wouldn't want to have you leave and then you have to log back in. I would probably say you can sit there, mute your microphone, and you can listen. You just can't participate in the discussion. That's the tact I've always taken when you have an interested or conflicted board member. So that's the way I would advise.
And actually, I would actually agree with you, Attorney Robinson, about that. Reason being, I believe that if we just really take into account that we are really for the first time gathering together as a board, I think that there would be a learning experience. If you know that obviously you might be biased, then I believe that there just has to be a level of trust that we develop, and you know that you shouldn't be in that conversation, just say so. And I think that says that. I guess I take a different approach on it. I don't know if we really need to be that specific, honestly. If there is a conflict of interest, then I would say that you indicate that. And if you indicated that to the board, then I just think naturally, I mean, I don't know if we have to spell that out for adults, but I kind of naturally would think that if I have a conflict of interest, then my conversation, my input wouldn't be relevant then at that point. Then I would need to by, building that trust within the board, that I would remove myself from that conversation. Then therefore, sit back, mute yourself, continue to watch, listen to what's being said, because you may not have a conflict of interest, but you may learn something from being a part of just listening to the discussion. And I think that more discussions that we are a part of and understood and are privy to, I think is going to be good for the growth and the development of the board as a whole. So like I said, I kind of see things a little different. I don't know if we really need to be that specific. They definitely shouldn't vote. That should be noted. But discussion, I mean, I feel that if you say you have a conflict of interest, then the mute should be the next step, if that makes sense to anyone. And that's just kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I agree with you in that I don't feel like a physical removal is necessary. I think we do need to be explicit for protection. And I'm speaking for myself, as a realtor, as a property manager. The more spelled out it is, I feel like the more protected I am. So,
Okay, well, I can see that.
Yeah. So if we're more explicit, and same thing with Jacob, right? So like if we're more explicit about what our parameters are and what the procedure is, it removes doubt, right? It removes any semblance of, was she a part of that conversation? Because we have in our bylaws what our procedures are. So we say, you're not voting on this and you're not participating in the discussion. Now exiting the meeting, that's a totally different thing. But you won't be participating in the discussion and you won't be voting. And that way we're
Sounds good to
all
me.
on the up and up,
I agree.
Then if that's
That's
the
good.
concern, then that makes sense to me. Then yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then at the no participation. I don't know. I work from a different standpoint, guys, so you got to forgive me. I deal with that trust factor, like, well,
Well,
You're
for
an
sure,
advocate.
for
That's what
sure.
you do.
and I would think that would be indicated in the notes. This person indicated they had a conflict.
Right. And in our heart and, in
boom,
our intentions,
mhm.
yes. But,
Mhm.
because,
Mhm.
we're public servants now, we have to be
Mhm. Oh,
extreme.
yeah.
Transparency is like the name of the game right now, full transparency. And so I feel like the more transparent we are in our bylaws, it just removes any
Mhm.
anything that might happen that, whatever.
Absolutely.
You guys know what I'm saying.
Chairperson Harrington, you got me. I'm here with you. All right.
If I may then, if I may,
Yes, sir.
Chair, I would suggest the following, and if you have the document in front of you, we're looking at section 5.7. And the first paragraph, I would suggest inserting, and this is the last sentence of that paragraph. It would read, as a result, the member is disqualified from participating or participating and, I should make that an and, participating and voting upon the matter, and the minutes shall reflect that no vote was cast by such member. So it clearly says that you're disqualified from participating and voting. Then in regard to the issue raised by Commissioner Glenn, I would suggest that at paragraph C in the second paragraph, that the matter directly involves the employer or employee of the member. So the word directly would be inserted between matter and involves.
I like it.
Okay.
Thank you, Attorney Robinson.
Thank you, Attorney Robbins, for clarifying that. So I am assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, we are not going to vote on these
Well,
tonight.
you can vote on them as amended if
All right,
you
good.
choose to do so.
Okay. What about any questions or concerns anyone has of
I
adding?
do.
Something? Yes, ma'am.
I
Yes.
have I lost it, question about voting the officers. Forgive me, it's somewhere in here, but I was looking at those other amendments and I've lost it. But it talks about we will vote for officers of the first annual meeting of the year. I think, Ms. Director Bonner, it states February. And since this will only happen once, and we've already voted for our officers for this year, I would just as soon as continue with President Houston and Vice President De La Cruz and not have to amend the bylaws. Will we have to make that? Will we have to amend the bylaws if we decide to keep them for this year? I mean, they'll have an extra 3 months since it's just a one-shot deal. Do we need to go through the process of, I'm assuming that they're going to get the vote again. That's our next meeting. And this is their first meeting in their roles. So I just want some clarification around that. If we can have some, please.
My advice would be that you do at your annual meeting, but all you would do is you affirm the individuals who have been voted in those positions. That you're basically, a motion would be, I move that we close the nominations and we, I guess, I'm trying to think the word, I'm at a loss for the word but basically you close the nominations and you keep everybody in place for the next year.
So that will
And
be, it needs to be.
and that would be at your annual meeting. That's the action you would take. You
Right.
are, yeah.
Okay, so that'll need to be an agenda item probably, definitely, Ms. Dorr.
Yes, it would.
Director Bonner. Okay.
What about any other questions or concerns? Good points.
And one other, and this was the other discussion that we had a few minutes ago is in regard to the meetings. Again, if you're looking at the documents, this is section 5.2, so as to not tie your hands. The words after the word City Hall in the second line, at 7:00 p.m. on the first Wednesday of each month, that's being deleted, and instead it would read meetings in City Hall according to the annual schedule adopted by the board. or according to the schedule annually adopted by the board is probably better.
I like it. Thank you.
Love it.
So I'd say safely we can move to a motion to vote. Verbally.
I motion.
Yeah, the motion would be to adopt the bylaws as amended.
All right.
I would like to make a motion to adopt the bylaws as amended by Attorney Robinson.
I second.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Jacob Beach, second by Commissioner Janine Brown. Excuse me for mispronouncing your name. All right. So we're going to continue to move on. Which
Well,
I believe,
you have to have a vote. And this
All
one,
right.
this one you may want a roll call vote on.
all right. Help me with the verbiage, sir.
You'd ask for Ms. Bonner to call the roll, and if you're in favor of the motion, it's yes. And if you're opposed, the answer is no.
All right, Director Bonner, would you do a roll call? If you're in favor, yes. If you're not in favor, no.
All right, Jacob Beach,
Yes.
Janine Brown,
Yes.
Gabriela Dela Cruz,
Yes.
Jessica Glenn,
Yes.
Angela Graham Williams,
Yes.
Marissa Harrington,
Yes.
Deshaun Houston.
Yes.
Then you say the motion's been adopted.
The motion has been adopted.
And for everybody's information, I will get these changes out probably early next week. And then we will move to get them before the city commission. I don't know if we can do it on as early as the 4th, but certainly by the second meeting in January, they will be brought before the commission for that body's approval.
Thank you, Attorney Robinson.
And I also want to express my appreciation for your thoughts and the edits that you suggested. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're gonna move on to action item 7, which is new business public comments. IT, are there any new comments? Any public comments?
There are no public comments at this time.
Okay. Oh, I just did that. Sorry, guys, my pen is not working. All right. Next action of item citizens comments, which is number 8, action call 8.
Oh, you've got to adopt your meeting schedule.
Oh,
Mr.
excuse
Chair.
me. Forgive me. All right. And is that voting? We're voting for that?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go. Motion to adopt our meetings.
But you don't have a schedule yet. You have to determine if you're gonna go 4 times a year, what months are you gonna meet? Because we have to
Well,
get, don't we have to get a commission?
Let me suggest, the bylaw says you have to meet at least 4 times, but you probably are going to be meeting more often. I would suggest that you do it, at least set a monthly meeting. If there's nothing to do, you can always cancel a meeting, but at least then you'll have it. And then once you adopt your meeting schedule, it has to be published pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, so that everybody knows what your meeting schedule is for 2021. And and you have some ability under the Open Meetings Act to amend that schedule if the first Wednesday in July is the 4th of July, you can amend that. I don't think there's going to be any problems with Wednesdays throughout 2021, but and of course, if there's no business to come before the board, again, you don't have to hold a meeting. And just give public notice that there is no meeting that month.
All right, well, let's discuss if we want to have a meeting. All right. So you just gotta forgive me, y'all. I'm learning and rolling with this. So
You
Attorney
are forgiven.
No, Chair, you're doing fine.
We here with you. We here
Doing
with you.
great.
You're
I
doing so
appreciate
good.
All of us. It's
I
new
do
for
have
all
a
of us.
question though, before we, can we do the vote, the second, then open for discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
And the
All right.
time is up for discussion too. It doesn't have to be at 7. We've been meeting at 6. So both of them are up for discussion.
All right, so I'm moving to start the discussion for meetings. Or do I need to adopt anything, or do we need to adopt anything?
You can
I
either,
move.
you
Shall
can
I?
do it one of two ways. You can either have a general discussion to find out to see if there's a consensus amongst the people, or somebody can make a motion and say, I move that we meet the first Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. for 2021. And then if there's a second, then that becomes the motion that is under discussion.
All right,
I move that we meet the first Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. in 2021.
Second it.
all right, motion by Commissioner Marissa Harrington, and second by Commissioner Dr. Angela Graham-Williams.
Director, not commissioner.
Sorry,
It's all
I
right.
heard Commissioner used by someone else, so forgive me.
You might just be speaking that into being for Director Harrington, so go
I think so.
ahead.
Ooh, you better hush now.
So now I'm going to move to adopt that.
Open for
Now,
discussion.
Discussion.
You're up for discussion. That's the motion. The motion now may be discussed.
All right, let's move to discussion.
I think obviously, I think we need to meet monthly opposed to a minimum 4 is great, but I think we do need to meet monthly. I think it's a great suggestion. I think it's a great motion, is my discussion.
I agree.
I agree.
So Janine has an issue. I don't mind the first Wednesday. I don't mind monthly. 6 o'clock though gets a little rough. Only like right now, this 6 o'clock time is not hard for me, but I work during the day. I need, and I'm just being very honest, I need a little time to get my house kind of in order so that I can come back and focus in here. I'm done with work at 5. Going at 6, I know I would not be mentally prepared. I'll be running around. I mean, even like when we were starting, I was checking children on mute. I'm just being very honest. So I would, like I said, I want to be full in. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. 6 o'clock it's just a little rough. I'm wondering if I'm even willing to compromise in between, because I know sometimes we get to 7, maybe people feel like that's getting a little too late and they want to go to bed. So I'm with you on that. I mean, I'm even asking for maybe a 6:30 if we're willing to kind of just give a little edge to that time, because I just need a moment to like cut down work, shut that down, feed children, and then sit down and be like, okay, I'm here. I don't want to be, one child under my arm and yelling at the husband and stuffing my face full of food before I come to a meeting. I really want to be fully present. And so I don't know if I'm the only one with the circumstance, so be it. It's once a month, your girl will deal, okay? But if there is an opportunity, to kind of give that a little edging out, I would really appreciate it. And I just want to ask about the time. Wednesdays are fine. It's just the time.
Later works better for me also. So I'm happy.
Okay.
I'm
Thank you, Gab.
that
Thank you,
works.
Gabby.
I
Thank
have
you,
a question too about like how late can we meet?
I mean, I can meet late. I mean, because it's for me, to be honest with you, I can meet late. Now, I know that's not everybody. Like I said, some people want to go to bed and some people already had a long day. I'm looking at Sister Bonner over here. I want to just hug her. Probably like, listen, too late. I'm tired, so
Right.
I'm feeling sis over here. But that's why I'm saying I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm not really asking for too late, because I get it. And then after a while, if you had a long day at work and then you come into a meeting, you're gonna start checking out. So
Right.
I really like the somewhere 6, 7, closer to 7 would just work a little bit to me. I personally don't agree with too late, because then I'm just thinking where everybody is. We want to make sure that we're fully present, giving this our full attention. And I want to be respectful of everyone, because I know everyone's timing is a little different. I just wanted to let y'all know of my plight, of kind of where I sat. So I was saying if we could edge that to a 6:30 or a 7 p.m. I mean, if you wouldn't even go the whole hour, I'm fine with that. I'll be up all night. I'm with y'all, but I'm again, I don't want to push it to the extreme. I'm just trying to compromise and find a nice little lovely spot.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sure can.
Thank you. A lot of issues raised, and let me try to walk you through some of the questions and also the parliamentary procedure. In terms of how late you go, as a body, as a board, you have some control over that in terms of if it starts to get too late. And in my experience, I can tell you that the wisest decisions usually aren't made when you're into double digits on the clock. So after a long day, gets to be about 10 o'clock and people start to get a little punchy. But that said, you have control over the business that comes before you, with one caveat, and I'll get to that in a moment. So if you're hearing a matter, you can certainly say that we're running late. People got put children to bed. I'm a little tired, and I'm not really capable of concentrating. I move that you can either push it off until the next meeting, a month later. You can recess it and said, can we gather and can we pick up this discussion tomorrow evening at 6:30 and come at it from then if people can do that. So you have the ability to adjourn. So you can, like I said, you can push it off, adjourn it. You have that control over how you conduct your business. What you don't have a lot of control over, and the Open Meetings Act requires, if there's public comment, you can't foreclose public comment. You've got to permit the public comment, because if people are there to comment to the board, you've got to accommodate them under the Open Meetings Act. So I know that there's been, how about if we only limit, they can only speak for a half hour in total. And if there's somebody, you get 30 minutes in and there's two people that haven't spoken and they still want to speak, you've got to permit them to have that opportunity. Now you can limit the time range that each speaker can speak, as long as it's a reasonable amount of time. I mean, you can't give them 10 seconds, but you can probably give them 2 minutes on the low end. You can end up, the standard rule, at least in Kalamazoo, is 4. Many other communities have a standard rule of 3 minutes. So that's the range you're looking at. So that handles that question, I hope, for you. The other is the parliamentary process that we're currently, now I'm talking about the motion before the board is to meet monthly on Wednesday, the first Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. What I heard Director Brown suggest is that she'd prefer 6:30 if possible. And I heard Director De La Cruz said that was fine with her. Basically, you need to make a motion to amend the motion before you to change from 6 o'clock to 6:30. And that motion has to be seconded. And then that becomes the motion under discussion. Should you move from 6 to 6:30? If that is approved, and I anticipate that it may very well be, then you go back to the main motion, which is first Wednesday of the month at 6:30. So you just have to work through the parliamentary procedure. And so I'm here to help you out to do that. I understand that not everybody's that conversant with Robert's Rules of Order, but that's not and that is not a criticism by any means. I'm here to help you along so that you get done what you wish to be done, and it's reflected in the proper parliamentary procedure.
That's wonderful. I'll even go 7 o'clock. But I mean, no, thank you. That's good to know. I mean, but I thought we were just having a discussion, so I didn't want to just move on anything yet until I kind of, because I don't know, like, I mean, I appreciate you, Gabby, but I mean, we're 2 people on the board, so I want to.
We've already made the motion and seconded it, so we do,
It's
is the point.
Oh,
But go
yeah,
ahead,
that's
I'll
what I'm
come after
saying.
Glenn. I saw Director.
So my understanding is we're going to hear complaints during our regularly scheduled meetings. And then if needed and it's going too late, we would adjourn and continue on the next possible date, similar to when the city commission has runoff meetings. Is that correct, Attorney Robinson?
Right. And in fact, probably a better analogy would be, because the city commission usually handles things at a meeting, they're willing to go into the small hours of the morning, which is okay. It's more like if you're in court, the judge will say, well, I'm done for the day, or we'll pick it up tomorrow, kind of thing. So it's more of that approach.
So I would be in support of having a later meeting. I too have young kids, so just the after work scramble is real and a lot. And you've seen me eating throughout this this meeting, and I'm trying to rein it in, but I have my dinner sitting next to me. So I would appreciate a later meeting. My concern is the adjudicative process when we're hearing complaints, and just making sure that parties have an opportunity to express themselves completely, right, within that process, and getting through ordinary business. So I assume that our meetings, as they progress, will have more of a structure and flow, and we'll have an estimation of what ordinary business even looks like for this group, because it's hard to even say what that will be, right? But definitely want to make sure that anyone coming before us with a complaint is given a sufficient amount of time to discuss the evidence at hand, discuss their position, and obviously the rebuttal by the other party. And so all of that to say, I would very much personally be in favor of a later meeting time, with the understanding that I think those, especially in the beginning, those hearings are going to be lengthy, as we figure out process, just knowing how hearings on other matters kind of take place. So
I would like to validate all of you young mothers, because I have been just where you are. My daughters are in college now. Woohoo! Hallelujah. But I had that scramble as well. So 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock for me is not the issue. What I do want to just point out and make sure everyone is mindful is that our bylaw states that this is our agenda practice or protocol, what we've seen today. We are here almost an hour already. And all we've really done today is reaffirm some of the issues we've already discussed. Now realize that this board has made a lot of news. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of landlords who are signing up for the training, which means I'm sure we have thousands and thousands of renters. And what I just want to make sure, and someone said it earlier as well, but I just want to underscore the comment is that when people come before us, we have to remember that they're going to be hurting and that they're in duress. And for us to not get through all of them and not be able to hear everything. And I'm just, again, echoing what Director Glenn said, not be able to hear all of their concerns and issues and the emotionality behind it, because it's 11 p.m. and we still know that we have 50 people who've called in. I go to a lot of the city commissioners meetings, and they're right. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, 1:30. Because you have to give the process a chance. So I just want all of us to realize that there's a chance that these meetings, especially initially, are going to go very, very long. Because if you just count our regular board business and then all of our city-wide residents, constituents comments, that's likely a couple hours. It can be right there before we hear even one person. So when you have young children, it cuts both ways. Do you want to start later and then you're up all night, or do you want to maybe eat with them and then end a little bit early? So I just want to make sure that we are really making an informed choice, because I, like the rest of you, I'll go with what the group says and I want to support the group. But pushing later means also we're going to push later into the evening. That's just my comment.
This is Director Beach. I think what we touched on early in this meeting is why we changed the bylaws to not have a direct meeting time is so we did have some flexibility. And I think what has been highlighted is we don't know what we don't know and what the coming months are going to look like in terms of how many hearings we're going to have, how much time we're going to need, what the process is going to look like. So personally, I am, thank you for everyone for being so honest about what we need to be diligent and engaged members of this board, because I think it's important that we all are doing what we need to do to be engaged. I think there's no problem with us saying, let's try a 7 p.m. start time, and then in a couple of months or 6 months, we find out we're in meetings late every single night, then we revisit it in a board meeting discussion. And if we have to make an amendment, Attorney Robinson, correct me if I'm wrong, we can make that change if we need to our schedule.
Yes, you may.
I was going to say, I agree with you. I agree with you.
So I would like to make, I'm just gonna make a motion to that, to amend the current motion that is.
Wait, before you
Yep.
make it, can I just add one thing for it?
Of course.
So we don't have to make another amendment to your amendment. My concern is that if the meeting goes late and we need to go to another day, I would hate for it to be another month. So is there a concession, whereas if we go late and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, that person who has been discriminated against and who is coming to us for help and support does not have to wait an additional 40 days or perhaps even being homeless. So I like your idea. I think that's a good compromise, but I just wanted to make sure that there's a concern for the amount of time for our next scheduled time to meet about their matter.
Would that get into, could we always call a special meeting time, Attorney Robinson, if that needed to happen?
You can call special meetings, you can adjourn the meeting. It's just a question of saying, okay, we can't finish it tonight. We don't want to wait another whole month. What is everybody's availability to adjourn this meeting to, or to create a special meeting? It depends on how long you gap. I think it's up to, and I have to do the research. It sticks in my head, 36 hours. You can adjourn something for 36 hours and take it up without having to renotice it. But if it goes longer than that, if it's like 2 days away, then you have to publish a new public notice saying this adjourned portion or the special meeting's been set in 2 days hence, and then you have to file that within 18 hours of the new special date. So there's some things on the Open Meetings Act, but these are things that are, they're not insurmountable problems to get around.
Because I just want to have a voice for those people who will be coming before us, because it's not about our convenience. We knew what we were getting into, and that's not to be insensitive to, we do have lives. I understand. I have a life too. I have a lot of boards and a lot of jobs and work and all in my own business. But we just have to also be mindful too of the people for who we are standing in the gap.
And I want to say this, Director Williams, I understand what you are saying, and I think that's great. I felt, though, that was spelled out clearly already in the document. So that's where I kind of feel like, we're going to be here. If somebody's waiting, I hope that we would come back on Thursday or Friday and do what needs to be done for that individual. So for me, I didn't see this as an issue. It was just more so, getting started. And because there were so many amendments and stuff, I just wanted to somehow bring balance to the board by being balanced myself, if that makes any sense. So I feel that if we're going to, as Jacob is going to, or excuse me, Director Beach, go ahead. He's going to make that, I want to be, formal with you. As he's going to make that wonderful motion. For me, it was just so, that we have something to start, but I felt that there was enough that was written in there that, yes, if there's somebody there, we do that. If we got to start next month earlier, we'll do that. I feel that we have that written into, our organization that we can do that. So I just wanted to be fully present. I didn't want to be running around. I felt that to me, that was more in thinking of them, not just thinking of my kids, because my kids eat every day. If they miss Wednesday, they won't die. And it's only on Wednesday, okay? They'll be fine. Peanut butter and jelly works, okay? I'm just saying. But what I'm saying is I just want to make sure that I'm fully present because they're going to expect me to. So I didn't want to rush around, come into a meeting yelling at folks and somebody's talking and they need me. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to get household in order. So this gets full Janine and my full attention. So that's the only reason I'm saying, maybe, that's why I was throwing that out there. But I'm with you 100, everything that you're saying. I just want to tell you, I resonate and totally validate with what you're saying, because I do care. And if I was in that position, I always think about me being in that position. I would want someone to be fully present, caring about it, not making me wait 40 days, not having me homeless. You understand? I've been on other boards and I've seen people that don't care and are burnt out. And I just wanted to avoid that up front as much as possible.
Know this, I never
Mhm.
question your intentionality or desire to serve the people of Kalamazoo. I just
Oh,
want
I know
to-
that.
we
I know
were
that. I
all-
didn't feel that.
Look, okay, good, because I hope
No,
you
I
did
didn't
it. That
feel
was
that,
not my
girl. No, we
intent.
good.
I just
No,
wanted
we're
to be
good.
the devil's advocate, make sure we're looking at it from every vantage point. But thank you
And-
for
and-
saying that.
Yeah,
Can
yeah. No,
I-
I feel
Can
you.
we
My
have-
girls were 17 months apart. I understand.
Can we have Director Beach repeat his motion?
Well, can I make a recommendation too? And this perhaps goes outside of the scheduling conversation we're having, but to the heart of the underlying matter, I think, which is already how intentional this board is being about the experience of complainants, right? And how hard it is going to be for people to lift this up in a public forum and how real that is. And to make this a board that that fulfills its purpose and does justice to Vice Mayor Griffin's labor of love and the city's labor of love, that these are the conversations we have to continuously have. But my recommendation would actually be that we hold these hearings for any complainants outside of our regular meetings, because if you are a party who has been so aggrieved and you are sitting through business of the board and hearing about, not to undermine or belittle the things that we talked about today, but if you're hearing about essentially bureaucratic process, right? And you're waiting to talk about how your family is homeless because of discrimination, that's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. And so I would even recommend that the special meetings before the actual hearings, and the ordinary business we reserve for these regularly scheduled meetings, to kind of address what has been raised by Dr. Graham-Williams and Director Brown. I mean, I think that is one way to do justice and to really make space for people in the community who are trying to lift up discriminatory practices.
So the current motion on the table.
So I would like to make amendment to the current motion that our regular scheduled board meetings occur the first Monday of every month at 7 p.m. opposed to the current motion Wednesday, first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m.
I second that motion.
All right. So we have motion by Director Jacob Beach and second by Director Marissa Harrington. Now I'm going to adopt, right?
You asked for a vote.
Ask for a vote. Sorry, I'm going to ask for a voice vote. Yeah, yes, if you're in agreement, and no, if you are not.
Yes.
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 All right, we're going to move to adopt the new time.
All right,
So,
now,
yeah,
and I lost kind of track here in terms of the original motion was for 6 o'clock. And I don't know whether there was actual motion in a second for 6:30.
No, we went to
There was
7.
No,
So,
we went
okay,
to 7 o'clock.
because I didn't know if it was an amendment to the amendment.
No, I was discussing,
Okay.
I was just asking for 6:30. I
problem.
didn't make a motion at all. I
Then-
was
then
just
you're all right.
waiting to see. And then Jacob came in, Director Beach came in and helped his sister out and said, look, girl, I'm gonna give you this motion.
No
And
problem.
that's where it went from. No, I was just discussing, there was no motion
So
on my behalf.
you are back to the main motion as amended,
Right,
which is to
right.
meet on the first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
And now we have to vote on that motion.
Yes.
All right. Is this going to be, do we have to do a roll call?
You can do it either way.
All right, I'm going to do voice vote. Yes, if you're in favor, no, if you are not.
Yes.
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 Which one are we? Didn't we vote on 7 p.m. already? So this should be nay.
No, we voted on the amendment.
Right, which was for 7 p.m.
Right.
So now we're voting for 6. So we should
No,
all vote.
No,
No?
you're voting for 7 because the main motion got amended.
We amended it. Now we're
The
voting
first
to-
motion was to amend the first motion. The second motion was to amend the first motion.
Okay, I thought we just, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Yay.
You have to, yeah. So what we discovered and what wonderful Attorney Robinson said, so that you can get caught up, Sister Williams, because I was lost too. Director Beach made a motion to actually amend the first motion that was made for 6 to 7. We have to vote on the amendment for that. Say, yeah, we'll take that amendment, or say yay or nay.
So
Now-
we were voting to accept the amendment. Now we're
Amendment,
voting on what the
yes.
amendment is. All right, I got you.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
I got you anytime. I'm following, girl. I gotta write notes. Listen,
I think you can make Director Brown a parliamentarian.
Yeah,
There you go.
and I want to move to adopt the amendment.
You actually asked for a vote on it. Yes, all in favor. I think there was.
We already did.
Okay, then it's adopted.
All right, we have, and now we can move on, proceed. I want to proceed to action item 8, but I think that we did this, but are there any citizens' comments? IT, is there any citizens' comments?
There are no citizen comments at this time.
Okay. I want to move to action item 9, any miscellaneous comments by the board members?
The
One-
more time we spend, we'll raise our hands. You recognize us, President Houston.
you go ahead, Director Williams. You go right ahead.
Director Williams?
Okay, I just wanted to say that the more we spend time with each other, the more we get to know each other. And I just feel like we're really coming together as a cohesive unit. And it's just a pleasure to be with y'all. It really is. You know, I just feel like we're going to work well. And I just want to wish you all the merriest of Christmases, or happy Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa, whatever it is that you celebrate. And just thank you for being in this place with me. It is truly my honor and pleasure to talk with y'all. I'm just looking forward to it.
Thank you, Director Williams. I appreciate that. Don't make me cry. I am sensitive, y'all. I will cry. The sweet stuff, you know. I wanted to actually ask well, I guess it's really a question. I guess it's not really a comment. Let me be honest. So I know that so our first meeting will be the first Wednesday in January at 7 p.m. Boom, I'm there. Question though, will we, as we're listening and hearing some of these things, and I think I may have missed it, so sorry if I'm just completely ignorant right now, but will we have any information about anything prior to the meeting, or we'll be finding out about everything? So like, will we be privy to any, like if there's, you know, this is what's, I mean, I know we'll have the agenda, but will we have any information like about the case or about the need or about the complaint? Will those things, or are we just finding out things as we're just sitting here, if that makes sense? Is there going to be any prelim information that will be sent out, I guess, about any, just so that we have an understanding of what might be going on?
Director Bonner and Attorney Robinson.
Requested.
Referring these to you too. Director Bonner or Attorney Robinson? I think it might be Director Bonner's wheelhouse though.
I'm going to say Attorney Robinson, because Attorney Robinson will be responsible, and his appointee, whoever he assigns, will be responsible for doing the investigation. And so, And I will say this is new for me too, because the other committees I've been on and boards did not do investigations. So this is my learning curve as well. So I defer to Attorney Robinson.
Okay.
This would, thank you, Director Bonner. This would be similar to many other boards with the city in that, like the Zoning Board of Appeals, they get a packet, usually several weeks before the meeting in terms of what are the contested issues that they have to hear, the zoning appeals, and they get a full packet. And then the individual who's seeking the variance gets an opportunity to address the board and answer questions where the board may have some questions about some issues, and also explain why they feel that they're entitled to a variance. They may want to add something more than what they've already provided. But yes, you as board members will get a packet of materials that would indicate the nature of the complaint, what we've investigated, what we found, and so that you are at least have a passing knowledge of what you're expected to do, as opposed to just coming into a hearing cold. I mean, that's not fair to you. It's not fair to the people who want to be heard, because this board obviously has already demonstrated a willingness to be engaged, and the only way you can do that is to come to these board meetings prepared, and it's our obligation to provide that information to you.
Thank you, Attorney Robinson. That helps me out tremendously, because I was a little concerned. I don't know if I missed it, because I know I had to cut out after the first meeting. I had to cut out, unfortunately, because I was in the air flying. Hello. No, that really helps me. I would really love to come to these prepared with information, so that, when we're hearing things, we know, kind of where to flow. Also, I think this also lets us know early enough if there's conflict of interest, because you've seen the stuff, so then we can already know, hey, I have to conflict of interest. Those things can be said right out front. We can remove ourselves from that discussion and that voting as stated in our bylaws. So that to me is just make sure that we're flowing right. So thank you so much. I actually feel that's a big weight off my heart, because I've been waiting to ask that question. So thank you so much.
I wanted to go back to the suggestion that Director Glenn made in regards to having a special meeting or a separate meeting outside of these board meetings for hearings. I know that the time commitment for that for us is an additional time commitment, but I wholeheartedly agree with that suggestion, because I think that we would all want to give the time necessary to be able to hear things thoroughly. We're decision makers, and so I don't want us to feel rushed in a regular board meeting where we have board business and public comment and all that kind of stuff, and then try and hear people. So I just wanted to go on record as agreeing with that suggestion. I don't know what the next steps would have to be to enact that or make that something that we for sure do. But I just wanted to voice my support of that.
I'm also in support of that. I will say there's a caveat for me, however. I don't know if the board is aware, but I am what we call Seventh-day Adventist. And I hold very strong religious to keeping the Sabbath, which is Friday night to Saturday night, absolutely holy. And I will not be participating in any hearings, or would not participate in any hearings that are Friday night to Saturday. I know that we've written some things that people are not showing up in the bylaws. So if we have too many of those Friday night situations, or if it ends up on a Saturday, I just wanted to make sure that that the board was aware up front about my religious obligations. And as much as I love y'all and I love everybody else, for me, God comes first. So I will not be part of any hearings. I wanted to make sure the board knew that if there was any issues, I wanted to make sure that that was able to be discussed and that I would be transparent in that. But know that I'm here wholeheartedly. I just can't for Friday night, or if it happens to fall on that date. So.
Can I make a recommendation? When we have our meetings and we know we have We're going to be hearing cases, and that be the only thing that we don't have any other business. Can we start off that way instead of trying to get a second night? And the other thing, and Attorney Robinson, correct me if I'm wrong, if we have a public meeting as a public body, you cannot not have public comments.
That is correct. And the other thing is your agenda, as you just, in the bylaws you just adopted, the public hearings are were put so they're at the beginning of the meeting. So you call to order, you have a roll call to see who's present. There's the adoption of the agenda, approval of minutes, and then it's, again, any public announcements, which usually is not going to take more than 5 to 10 minutes. And then the next thing is public hearings. So you're going to jump right into that very quickly. It's not as though you're going to do a lot of, if you will, business before you get to public hearings. This was done intentionally so as to move that business kind of stuff to the end of the meeting, have the public hearings up front when, number one, everybody's fresh and people are less inconvenienced then.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I have one more question, Director Bonner, about what you just said. It sounds like you're saying that if, let's say we know that we will have 3 cases that we're hearing that we're preparing for, that if there's any other business on the agenda that have been set for that month, that we can amend the agenda and remove it. Was that correct? Okay, got it. Thank you.
This is Director Beach. I do have a question for one of the team of the city. Are we planning to be virtual at least through March, or is there a date of when in-person meetings for the city are expected to resume, or is it just to be determined?
It is to be determined. It just depends on how the
world goes.
The world goes. At this point, and I don't know if the governor signed the bill, but there was a bill that was adopted in the last couple of days of the legislature last week, in which they moved the, if you will, no reason electronic meetings. That is, you don't have to have a specific reason for holding an electronic meeting through March 30th. So beginning March 31st of 2021, you have to have a reason for a meeting, and you can declare an emergency if need be, depending on where things stand public health wise. But at least from now until March 30th, you can hold electronic meetings. And as far as I know, the city is anticipating continue to hold electronic meetings through March 30th. As we get into March and we have a better idea as to how contained or controlled the COVID virus is, there may be a move to hybrid meetings, or that we may go back to some type of meeting but social distancing, wearing masks, but we'd be even in the same room. It just depends. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you how that's going to work out.
What about any other comments? Oh, Director Glenn.
Thank you. So I did. So I wanted to revisit a question that Vice Chair De La Cruz had asked in a prior meeting, and revisit a comment that you made, Vice Chair, which is, what does our work look like, right? And what could it look like? And just reminding us that we can do more than hear complaints, and being proactive in our work, ensuring we have the most equitable city possible, and one in which people's civil rights and civil liberties are upheld in every possible way. And to that end, thinking through a close examination and close look at existing policies, and perhaps even the city charter, and Director Bonner, in your role too, supporting you in the work that I know you do on behalf of the city as an employee. And I wanted to revisit just the general provisions of Article 1 of the non-discrimination ordinance. And because I think it's really important that we pay attention to the language here, which is, so it is the intent of the city of Kalamazoo that no person be denied the equal protection of the laws, nor shall any person be denied the enjoyment of their civil rights. So the prohibitions against discrimination provided for in this chapter do not preempt federal or state law, but are intended to supplement existing state and federal civil rights law to prohibit discrimination in the areas of employment, public accommodations, and housing not addressed at state or federal law, especially in regards to actions taken because of an individual's source of income, status as a victim of domestic violence, prior arrest, or conviction record. And I think that especially in regards to is very important, because what it tells us, right, is those are special areas that we have carved out that go beyond state and federal law, right? Like being a victim of domestic violence is not a protected class. But I think that there are also areas where people are discriminated against where they're not yet a protected class. And so under state and federal law, and in one of the ways that people are discriminated against intentionally in our community, and Vice Chair De La Cruz has brought this up, is immigration status, right? Is in citizenship status. And it is not a protected class, but it nonetheless is discrimination. And so I think it's going to serve us well to start thinking about what does that look like, right? And I've heard Vice Mayor say, we don't need listening sessions, right? Like we don't need more. But I would encourage the community to make these public comments to say, here is what we see, here is what we know outside of the official complaint process, but these are the areas we need as a city to look at more meaningfully, because this is what discrimination looks like here, right? And so thinking through our work for 2021 and the purpose we serve beyond hearing complaints, how do we ensure, right, now as this composed board, that no matter who you are here, your civil rights and your civil liberties and your right to exist free from discrimination is possible. So that's the comment I want to make, but I want to really just hit home on that. We decided as a community, we would not discriminate against people based on their status as a victim of domestic violence, their prior arrests, their conviction record, but there are more, right? There are more bases that people are discriminated against. We know them here. And so I hope we take that on in the next year, and thank you all for your service. And I'm really, really excited about this group. And thank you, Director Bonner, for everything you did. You deserve the most restful vacation possible. And so I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. And thank you, everybody.
Are these items that we can put on the agenda? What Director Glenn just spoke of, fleshing out the current ordinance. I really feel like maybe that should be a standing item until we have hearings, things that we need to hear, so that we're being proactive about our work. I'm not sure the protocol or procedure for adding things to the agenda, but I think that that should just be clear so that, we're coming to these meetings working.
Attorney Robinson, what would be the standard for adding items?
I would work through Director Bronner.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say. So in the future, I will be having meetings with your chair and vice chair on the agenda. So either through myself or through your chairs, we will meet a week or so before every meeting to determine the agenda based on what was discussed in the prior meeting and any things that you want to add. So this is your committee, and I'm following your lead and supporting you, but I'm not going to lead it because this is your committee, and I want to make sure we're in sync.
I have a question. I think it's a question. So I know that the chair can create, why can't I think of the word? Subcommittees. And so I don't know if we'll need these for this, but I guess my question, just really clearly, is I know that we're supposed to avoid having a quorum via email, so we don't want to like reply all and all of that. But if we're already considering the possibility of having like quote unquote homework for hearings, could we have quote unquote homework for like let's say I emailed Director Bonner and I said, can you send this city the charter to, or like this portion of the charter to Director Harrington and this portion to Director Brown so they could review it, so then they'd be ready to talk about it at the next meeting. Would that be something we could do? Like without having a quorum via email?
I believe so, as long as you're not making decisions. I think, and attorney, correct me, if you want to have a subcommittee, you have to determine that publicly so people would know that there's a subcommittee. Those things have to be a part of a meeting. So it's all about being transparent. So, and following the Open Meeting Act. So if you want to do something unique, it has to be decided amongst you all what it is that you want to do. Is that correct, attorney? Did I get it right?
Right, and it has to be done in an open forum.
Okay. So
I
if,
think-
oh, sorry.
I was just going to ask you a follow-up, but go ahead, finish your point.
If we didn't need subcommittees, like let's say like we broke it up into whatever it was into 7 pieces and sent it out to each person, then would that be okay?
I would recommend that decision was made in the meeting. And so everyone knew what you were doing and the community, so it's all open. And then you would just ask for that person to report at the next meeting. But it would be if you want to keep it open.
Yep.
Thank you.
Director
Attorney
Williams?
is training me well.
I think Director Graham-Williams had a follow-up.
I was just trying to think through in what situation would that ever be required, but Vice Chair De La Cruz, she answered my question. Thank you.
What about any other comments from any other board members? Okay, Attorney Robinson, I'm just going to say as chair, I adjourn the meeting.
You can do that. You have that capability. You can also ask for a motion to adjourn. I know different boards do it differently, but you have the prerogative, what is called the prerogative of the chair. You can basically say, unless there's an objection, I adjourn this meeting.
Unless there's an objection, I am going to adjourn this meeting and wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a good holiday. And eat well.
Happy holidays,
I'm already
everyone.
eating well. I'm already eating well. Happy holidays, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care,
Bye.
Thank you
everybody.
for your time. Bye.